Have you ever heard that voice in your mind saying, "It's too late for me, too late to change, too late to heal, too late to become who I was meant to be"? It whispers about missed chances, wasted time, and irreversible mistakes. But that voice, as convincing as it may sound, is a lie, a quiet, seductive lie. And if you believe it, you surrender the most powerful truth of life as long as you are breathing. It is never too late to begin again. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that each moment holds the potential for renewal, that the past only carries the weight we give it, that courage doesn't expire with age, and the decision to rise, to evolve, to become, is always available right here, right now. So if you've ever felt stuck, bound by regret, age, fear, or the burden of what should have been, this is your call to rise. Today we explore Stoic lessons on rebirth, renewal, and timeless courage truths that can reshape your life, no matter where you stand on the path. Take a deep breath. The past is gone. The future is unwritten. But this moment, this breath is yours. Let's begin. And the past only holds power if you let it speak again too often. We treat the past like an anchor, something heavy and permanent, dragging behind us. We replay our mistakes, rehearse our regrets, and let old memories dictate our present reality. But here's the truth. The past is not a force. It's not alive. It cannot reach into your present unless you invite it back in through memory, rumination, or regret. The Stoics knew this well. Regret, to them, wasn't destiny, it was recycled pain, a loop of unnecessary suffering. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, forget everything else. Hold on to this, that life is only lived in the present moment. Yet so many of us live like prisoners of the past, allowing one failure, one betrayal, or one missed chance to define everything. But that's not fate. That's a choice. You see, the past has no real power. It cannot touch you unless you give it permission. And the Stoic response, simple and profound. Do not give what is dead the power to steal from what is still living. No matter what happened yesterday, no matter how painful or embarrassing it's done, you can't undo it. But what you do next, how you respond now, that is alive, that is in your hands. Regret changes nothing. Reflection can. Learn from the past. Take the wisdom, but then release it. To carry it beyond that is not strength, it's self-inflicted suffering. It's chaining yourself to what cannot be changed, and abandoning the only thing that can be the present. There comes a quiet moment in every life when a person says, I refuse to be defined by what I cannot change. I will not let yesterday dim today's light. That is the beginning of true freedom. Because here's the deeper truth. The past is only as loud as you allow it to be. Silence it by living fully now. Drown it out with action, with purpose, with growth. Show it that its stories no longer control your life. You are the author now. You are not the prisoner of your past. If the past tries to speak again, if it whispers doubt, shame, or limitation, don't argue with it. Don't justify. Respond with something stronger: action. Take the next right step. Live a life so grounded in the present, so full of purpose, so in alignment with who you're becoming, that there's no room left for old pain to echo. Ask yourself, where am I still letting the past speak? What old story am I replaying that no longer serves me? And most importantly, what would shift if, right now, I chose to lay it down and step forward? You've always had that power. The past only haunts the mind that invites it in. Refuse the invitation. Close the door. Stand in the present. Build a life so rich in now that the past becomes what it was always meant to be: a lesson, not a life sentence. Let today be the day you stop living in yesterday. Each day is a new life, if you treat it that way. Imagine waking up tomorrow as if you had been given a brand new life. No baggage, no old mistakes to carry, just a clean slate. What would you do differently? The Stoics believed this isn't just poetic, it's practical. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Not to be morbid, but to awaken, because every breath is a reminder life is fragile, and that makes this moment priceless. Yet most people live like they'll get a second draft, postponing dreams. Complaining through the day, saying, "I'll change tomorrow. I'll try later. I'll start someday." But life isn't a rehearsal. The only time you truly have is now. Each morning, life hands you a gift, a new beginning. But you have to choose it. You have to treat today not as an extension of yesterday, but as its own life. Ask yourself, if today were truly my first and maybe my last, how would I live? What would I focus on? What would I finally release? Because the truth is, you are not stuck. You are not waiting for permission. You are free right now to begin again. And rebirth doesn't always arrive in grand moments. It lives in the small ones, choosing patience over reaction, movement over apathy, presence over distraction. Each choice is a quiet declaration: I begin again. I live now. Seneca said it clearly: begin at once to live and count each day as a separate life. That mindset doesn't just spark gratitude, it reshapes identity. You are not who you were, not even an hour ago. You are who you choose to be in this breath. You are not your mistakes, you are your next choice. One of the most deceptive lies the mind tells is this: that mistake, that failure, that moment of weakness, that's who I am. But it's not true. The Stoics rejected this belief entirely. They taught that identity isn't fixed. Why? Because life isn't fixed. We are in constant motion, and what defines you isn't what you've done, it's what you choose next. The next thought, the next word, the next alignment with your values. That's where your power lives, not in the past, but in the present choice. Seneca once said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end," which means every moment contains the potential to start again. You are never trapped unless you choose to be. You are never broken unless you stop growing. Yes, the failure happened. The breakup, the business loss, the moment you froze in fear, but those are events, not identities. If you turn them into fuel, they become teacher. If you use them as excuses to stay stuck, they become chains. Here's the truth. Your next choice is always more powerful than your last mistake. Because your next choice is alive. It's movement. It's change. The past is already written. But you are still being written. So begin again. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. Because this moment is not just part of your life, it is your life. And it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. The Stoic path to power, change, and liberation. The path is simple but not easy. The Stoic path is not complicated. Own your mistakes. Learn the lesson. Release the shame. Move forward with purpose. Because shame is a poor motivator. It keeps you small. It keeps you stuck. Responsibility, on the other hand, is liberating. When you say, "Yes, I chose poorly, and now I choose differently," you reclaim your power. You stop identifying with failure and start identifying with growth. This applies at every level, from the smallest broken habits to the biggest life decisions. Maybe yesterday you broke a promise to yourself. Maybe last year you abandoned a dream. Maybe you've spent years drifting from your values. None of that disqualifies you from choosing again right now. The Stoics remind us you have power over your mind, not outside events. And that includes the power to choose your next step regardless of how many missteps came before it. Ask yourself, what mistake am I still carrying as an identity? What old story am I using to justify staying small? And what new choice can I make today to begin rewriting that story? Remember, you are not your mistakes, you are your next choice. And that next choice is waiting for you to claim it. Choose boldly. The past doesn't own you. Your present actions do. 2. Wisdom begins when you stop justifying delay. One of the greatest illusions the mind creates is the illusion of later. We say, I'll start when things calm down. I'll commit when I feel more ready. I'll change when the timing is better. But beneath all of it, if we're honest, is just one thing: fear. Fear of discomfort. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of failure. So we dress that fear in logic. We call it being responsible. We say it's not the right time. But delay is rarely about time, it's about courage. The Stoics knew this, and they taught that procrastination isn't a scheduling issue, it's a truth issue. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. We don't lack time. We lack the willingness to use it fully." How many things have you delayed? Not because you truly needed to, but because they required stepping into discomfort. That honest conversation, that new discipline, that long postponed project, that boundary, that leap toward who you want to become. And here's the subtle danger. The more you delay, the heavier it becomes. Inertia builds. Fear grows. And you begin to identify with avoidance itself. I'm not ready. I'm not that kind of person, but the Stoic path is this: begin before you're ready. Because motion creates clarity. Action builds readiness. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is movement despite it. And when you stop justifying delay, you free an immense amount of energy. Unfinished tasks, unspoken words, unpursued goals, they all drain you. But one small act of courage, it unlocks life. So ask yourself, where in your life are you still justifying delay? What would shift if you stopped waiting and simply acted, even with trembling hands? Because here's the truth. The moment you stop justifying delay is the moment wisdom begins. Not in theory. In life. Choose that moment. Now. It is that. Real change begins with radical responsibility. It's a simple truth. Change begins the moment you accept responsibility. Not when you have the perfect plan. Not when circumstances shift. But when you say, this is my life, I alone must choose who I become. No real transformation can begin while you're still pointing outward, blaming your past, your parents, your partner, your boss, society, fate. As long as responsibility is placed on forces beyond your control, you will always feel powerless. Epictetus said, "Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and you will find peace." Why? Because trying to control the uncontrollable leads only to frustration. The only real power, your response. And that begins with ownership. Now let's be clear, responsibility is not the same as blame. It's not about fault-finding. It's about empowerment. You may not be responsible for what happened to you, but you are 100% responsible for what you choose next. And that choice is everything. Blame feels safer. It preserves the ego. It protects us from the discomfort of change. But it also keeps us stuck, because blame locks you in a victim mindset, and victims do not transform. They wait. They wish. They circle the same loop year after year. The moment you say no one is coming to save me, no one owes me the change I seek, I must become it. That is the moment transformation begins. The moment the locus of power shifts. The moment your life starts to reflect the strength you've always had. And this is where Stoicism becomes not just a philosophy but a daily practice. Because you can't control everything, but you can always control how you meet it. And in that meeting, you define your character, responsibility, readiness, and real change. A Stoic approach. What sets truly admirable people apart isn't their talent or luck, it's their depth, their resilience, and above all, their willingness to take full responsibility for their lives. Not flawlessly, but consistently. They don't waste energy assigning blame. They don't fixate on what went wrong. They focus on what can be done right now, starting from exactly where they are. Here's what's often misunderstood. Responsibility isn't a weight, it's freedom. Because once you take ownership, you stop waiting for permission, stop seeking validation, stop expecting someone else to fix it. You become the author of your life, and that's the most powerful position you can hold. So ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you still pointing outward, still saying, I can't because of them, or if only that hadn't happened? Now imagine this. What if today you said, this is mine? I choose to respond differently. Because change doesn't require ideal circumstances. It requires ownership. And that shift from blame to personal power is where all transformation begins. The moment you stop looking outward and start turning inward, you open the door to real growth. So you don't have to feel ready to start. One of the biggest lies that keeps people stuck is this: I'll begin when I feel ready, when I feel more confident, when I've learned more, when things settle down. But here's the truth. That moment of perfect clarity and confidence may never come. And if you wait for it, you might wait forever. The Stoics understood this deeply. Life doesn't wait for perfect timing. It requires action even when you're uncertain. Seneca once said, "It's not that life is short, it's that we waste much of it." And one of the main ways we waste it by delaying action, convinced we're not ready yet. But readiness isn't something you need before starting. It's something you earn through movement. The more you act, the more confident you become. The more you step forward, the more direction you gain. Courage doesn't come before action, it follows it. So many people live paralyzed, waiting for a green light that never comes. But there is no perfect time. There is only this time, and it's passing quickly. Every expert was once a beginner. Every courageous person once felt fear. And none of them waited until they felt ready, they simply began. And here's the deeper truth. Starting before you feel ready is an act of strength. It redefines your identity. You stop needing certainty and start building confidence through action. So ask yourself, what are you still postponing? What dream, decision, or change are you avoiding because fear keeps whispering, not yet? What might shift if you acted today, not because you felt fully prepared, but because you chose to lead with courage instead of fear? Remember, you don't need to feel ready to begin. You need to begin to feel ready. Action creates readiness. Movement builds clarity. Life rewards the brave, not the perfectly prepared. So go forward, trembling hands and all. You're far more ready than you realize. Real change comes from what you do. Daily, we live in a world obsessed with big moments, the massive leap, the dramatic reinvention, the overnight transformation. Starting Monday, everything changes, we declare, and then nothing changes. Not because we don't want it badly enough, but because we misunderstand how real transformation actually works. The The Stoics didn't chase breakthroughs. They practiced consistency. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't waste time debating what a good person should be. Be one, not someday. Now." In the small daily choices, that's where your identity is shaped. Yet we often fall into the trap of thinking change must be big to matter. We aim to fix everything at once. We make bold declarations. But when setbacks come, and they always do, we quit, thinking we've failed. This isn't failure, it's just the wrong strategy. True, lasting change is slow, it's subtle, it's built through quiet, consistent effort. Brushing your teeth once a month for an hour does nothing. Brushing for 2 minutes every day protects your health. It's not the rare gym session that changes your body. It's the daily habit of movement. Not the yearly retreat that brings you peace, but the daily return to presence. Small actions compound. Each choice aligned with your values strengthens your identity. Each tiny act of discipline sets the next one in motion. And over time, they lead to transformation that dramatic resolutions can only promise but never deliver. But here's the catch. Small actions aren't glamorous. They don't get attention. They don't give you a dopamine rush. They require humility. They happen quietly, without applause. And that's why most people ignore them, still chasing the next big breakthrough. But the Stoic knows wisdom is built in the mundane. Integrity is formed in the details. Excellence lives in repetition. So ask yourself, what quiet habit have you been underestimating? What small action could you repeat daily that would quietly reshape your life? Because greatness isn't the result of one bold moment. It's the sum of countless small ones. Done with intention, small actions shape who you become. So let me ask you, where are you chasing dramatic, overnight transformation while overlooking the quiet, consistent steps that would actually change your life? What simple habits, practiced daily, could build the identity you long to embody, one choice at a time? Because here's the truth. Small, consistent actions are more powerful than grand, unsustainable resolutions. They may not look impressive in the moment, but over time, they form the foundation of who you are. They shape your character. They define your direction. So choose them, trust them, live by them, and you'll watch yourself become someone you never imagined. Aging isn't decline, it's precision. In a culture obsessed with youth, aging is often treated like a slow fall, a fading of beauty, energy, opportunity. But the Stoics saw it differently. To them, aging wasn't loss, it was refinement. It was the sharpening of wisdom, the distillation of what truly matters, the letting go of excess so that only clarity remains. Seneca said life is like a story. It's not about how long it is, it's about how good it is. Your value isn't found in how many years you've lived, but in what those years have taught you and how intentionally you've chosen to live them. In youth, we often chase volume, new experiences, accolades, identities. But with age comes a deeper desire to live with meaning. You learn to say no, not out of limitation, but out of clarity. You no longer rush to prove yourself, you move with purpose. What once felt urgent now feels optional, and what once felt optional now becomes essential. That's the gift of aging. Many resist this shift. They cling to youth, to external approval, to old versions of themselves. But in doing so, they miss the quiet power of this new season. The Stoic invites us to see aging as an invitation to live with focus, to make each action count, to become more deliberate in how we love, serve, and lead. Like a sculptor moving from rough shaping to delicate detail. Aging allows you to live with greater precision. So I'll ask you, how are you viewing this season of your life? Are you resisting what it's here to teach you, or are you embracing its wisdom? Remember, this aging isn't decline, it's evolution. It's the chance to refine who you are, to release what no longer fits, and to live with more depth, presence, and clarity than ever before. Let your years become your greatest strength. Comparison destroys inner renewal. Few things drain your spirit more quietly and more completely than comparison. And in the modern world, it's everywhere. Scroll for a moment and you'll see someone fitter, richer, more admired, more accomplished. It seems harmless, but unchecked, comparison becomes poison. It robs you of joy. It clouds your vision. It steals your ability to honor your own path of growth. The Stoics warned of this trap long before social media. They taught that peace comes not from comparing yourself to others, but from measuring your progress against your past self. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ambition ties your well-being to what others say. Self-indulgence ties it to what happens to you. Sanity ties it to your own actions." The only question that matters is this: are you more aligned with your values today than you were yesterday, because your journey is yours alone? Your starting point, your struggles, your strengths, they are unique. Comparing timelines is like comparing the sunrise and the moon. They were never meant to be measured against each other. When you compare, your energy shifts outward. You begin to chase goals that aren't even yours. You lose sight of what you actually value. You forget to ask, what is true for me? But inner renewal, the real kind, doesn't come from catching up to others. It comes from slowing down and tuning inward. It requires stillness, honesty, the courage to ask, what part of me is ready to grow? What do I need to let go of? What am I being called to become? You can't answer those questions if your mind is noisy with comparison. The Stoic takes a different path. They don't ask, am I ahead? They ask, am I aligned? Not, am I winning, but am I becoming? That shift changes everything, because when you stop comparing, you reclaim your power, you move at your own pace. You stop performing and start evolving, and you realize you're not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to learn what this moment is here to teach you. The race was never with them. It has always been with the best version of yourself. Comparison is the thief of renewal. So I'll ask you now, where has comparison crept into your life? Where are you measuring your worth by someone else's timeline, image, or path? And what would shift if today you chose to release that burden, to stop keeping score and start walking your path with full presence and integrity? Because here's the truth. Comparison is the thief of inner renewal. It clouds your clarity. It weakens your sense of direction. It distracts you from your own becoming. Guard your mind. Honor your journey. Trust that your most powerful transformation won't come from chasing others, but from finally coming home to yourself. The present is always the right time. There's a dangerous story we often tell ourselves: I'll step into who I truly am later, when I've healed more, when I feel ready, when things calm down. But here's the Stoic truth, unshakable and clear. The present, not some perfect future, is always the right time to begin. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think, not as a morbid warning, but as an invitation to presence, to urgency, to now. Because waiting is a form of self-deception, and the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. Delay breeds inertia. Inertia breeds doubt. But even the smallest action breaks that cycle. Every moment, every breath invites you to realign, to become more of who you are meant to be. Not perfectly, but intentionally. It's not about grand transformations, it's about asking one simple question. What would my truest self choose right now? Then choosing it in your words, in your focus, in how you move through adversity, in how you treat the people you love. The Stoic doesn't waste today waiting for tomorrow. They know life is not a rehearsal. It's the forge. And the present is where your character is shaped. So again, I ask you, what version of yourself are you postponing, and what might happen if you stopped waiting and started becoming? Today, you're always just one decision away from deeper alignment, from greater integrity, from the life that has been quietly waiting for you to begin it. Begin now, become. So here we are. You've heard the truths, you've felt the pull, but now comes the only part that matters. What will you do next? Because none of this is about theory. It's about life, about the moment ahead where you'll face the choice to cling to the past, or step into renewal, to wait for permission, or give it to yourself. The Stoics would tell you this: every moment holds the power to begin again. Not someday, not when things are perfect, not when you feel ready. Now, the past, it has no power unless you keep feeding it. The future, still unwritten. But the present is alive. The present is where you shape your story, and it's never too late. Not to heal, not to rise, not to live with greater courage, depth, and truth. And what does it take? Just one thing. The choice to begin. That choice is always within your reach. So as you walk forward from this moment, hold this close: who you've been does not limit who you can become. You are not your mistakes. You are not your fear. You are not what others said about you. You are your next choice. And that choice lives here in this breath now. This message spoke to you. Let it live beyond this moment. Share it with someone who needs it. Return to it when you forget. But above all, act. Don't just absorb wisdom, embody it. Live it. Because the life you seek is not waiting for you someday. It's waiting for you in the choices you make today. So begin now and become.